We're going to demonstrate this principle with a human fax. Rex has got a big bit of paper just over the ridge, and I'm going to fax this message to him using these flags to signal to him. We're going to walk over our bits of paper using metronomes to keep us in step. And I'm going to hold up the green flag to signal the start of each line. And I'm going to hold up the red flag whenever I step on a black bit of the paper. What's happening inside a real fax machine is surprisingly similar. There's a sensor that reads a line at a time at the sending end and a printer that prints out a line at a time at the receiving end. The lines are usually much too small to be visible, except at the tiny writing at the top of a fax, which identifies where it's come from. Of course, there's a mass of electronics underneath that converts the lines to sounds that can travel over the telephone. But the basic idea is exactly the same as our human fax. It's so simple, it was first patented 150 years ago, long before the era of electronics, and over 30 years before the invention of the phone. Bain's fax machine was inspired by an earlier discovery that paper soaked in potassium ferrocyanide turns black when electricity is passed through it. So if I put it on this metal plate and move a nail across it, it should change colour when I complete the circuit. Bain had the idea of using this paper to receive messages assembled out of printer's type. So, if Rex, with a bit of help from Percy, moves his nail across the raised part of a bit of type, while I move my nail across the paper, we should be able to send the message in a series of lines, just like we did with the human fax. Of course, this time the message is being sent by pulses of electricity, so it can be sent like Morse code along telegraph lines. Bain fixed the nails at the sending and receiving ends to the pendulums of his electric clocks. This kept them in sync, however far apart they were. However, having patented the idea in 1843, he never developed it. The oldest existing fax machines are in the Musée National des Techniques in Paris. These magnificent contraptions, called pantelegraphs, were built by a French engineer called Abbé Caselli in about 1860. They're the same idea as Bain's machine, but Caselli had perfected them, and these actually ran the world's first commercial fax service between Paris and Lyon. The message to be sent was wrapped on one of these curved plates. Instead of Bain's raised type, it was engraved out of very thin sheets of copper. These machines don't work anymore, but there would have been a stylus in here, the equivalent of our nail, to make the contact, and it was moved across the message by this large pendulum, attracted from side to side by the large electromagnets. At the receiving end, you'd put a bit of Bain's soggy paper on one of these curved plates with another stylus resting on it. Then, if you got the two pendulums swinging together, the message could be reproduced. In practice, getting the pendulums to swing together 250 miles apart wasn't at all easy. They had to have a separate clockwork chronometer at each end to get them in sync before the message could be sent. The definition the pantelegraph achieved is really quite extraordinary. Unfortunately, though, it was too far ahead of its time.
Every available development of science and engineering has been utilized to get the story to the reader in the shortest possible time. And now, the latest miracle of news gathering, sending pictures by wire, has lifted the curtain on a new era in newspaper history. It is only a matter of minutes after a news event has occurred before newspapers all over the country are carrying pictures that tell the story more graphically and completely than the printed word, by simply picking up a telephone and calling the paper.
Most of these machines work by wrapping the picture around a drum and then moving a single sensor slowly along it. This model shows the basic idea. The page transformed into a string of black and white bits and then all recombined at the receiving end. Rex and I have had a go at sending a fax like this using our lathes. I'm going to send this message to Rex. This is my light sensitive switch, the sensor. I'm going to put that in the lathe here. Clamp it in. Now I've connected it up to this little sounder so that it'll squeak whenever it passes over a black bit of the message.
This is a soggy paper, like we used over at Tim's workshop. Now I'll put this paper around a drum on my lathe, and this piece of wire represents the nail we used. Now this little sensor, this microphone, I'll put on the loudspeaker of the telephone, and when it picks up the bleeps from Tim's sender unit on his lathe, it will leave a mark, it will go through here, leave a mark on the paper by a sound-sensitive switch, and the same thing as if I shout into it. If I start the lathe up, hang on. If I start the lathe up, and you actually see it, the little light will come on if I shout, "Hello!" You can actually see the smoke coming off the paper where the current's going through. "Hello! 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Switch off again. And then you can actually see the black marks left by my voice. Anything coming through yet, Tim? Tim?
Can you hear me, Tim?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you send me a sync pulse through?
Yeah, I'll just have to tape the thing to the phone.
Okay.
So with the microphone and my sounder connected to the handsets of our phones, we should be able to fax the message.
Okay, I'll tape mine on.
Okay.
I'll just tape that on the edge of the speaker.
Right, get the lathe going. The only thing is, first I just have to send a pulse once a revolution, because Rex has got to get his lathe going at exactly the same speed as mine. Can you hear the pulse?
Right, Tim, we got sync. Can you hear me? Okay. Well, it's coming through quite clearly now. I can even see the first line. Before I stop it, it says Utopia. I'll stop the lathe. Ah, yes, the first line is, yes, it's Utopia, and the second line is services, but it's very wobbly. It's a job to keep it in sync, but it's not bad for a lathe.